Thank you for taking time out of your day to click on my video. Today I will be reacting to people's tweets on X regarding Resident Evil 9 Requiem. I will be focusing on a mixture of negative, positive, and tweets that I found funny. I want to be as respectful as possible towards people's opinions, but also towards Capcom because I understand game development takes years, it is stressful, and is costly. That being said, I will be speaking my mind on the game and people's opinions of it. Right, let me know what you guys think in the comment section, as feedback and criticism is appreciated. Please like, share and subscribe, and let's get into it. Well, the game is short enough as it is. I wanted it to be longer. We were robbed of full city exploration in RE3 Remake, and was hoping and praying for Capcom to redeem themselves in Requiem. I was thoroughly dissatisfied with it. I'm grateful we got to go back there, but only with Leon so far, and not seeing enough of the city just made me sad. I don't know if this person has played other games in the franchise, but please just know that RC was a big place and lots of places in the city were playable in previous games, such as 1, 2, 3, and Outbreak Files 1 and 2. Anyway, owner of this tweet, have a great day. So, I don't know if this person is trolling or not. The level design in Raccoon City and Ark is mid. It does not compare to RE4 OG and Remake, nor does it compare to many of the other games. The RHCCC's gameplay loop can be compared favourably to RE1, 2, 3, Code Veronica and many others in the series because of the exploration, backtracking and sense of powerlessness on a first playthrough. The RC and Arc segments are not terrible, but to heavily imply that this game does RC better than OG RE3 and lab areas better than RE2, OG and Remake has to be a joke or ignorance. The glorified walking simulator sections, such as the intro and the Chloe orphanage sections, are terrible. The sections are typically negatively looked upon by fans of RE2 Remake, Village, etc. because they are tedious and boring on repeat playthroughs. The replay value of this game is not on RE1 Remake or RE4 OG and Remake's level. Anyway, owner of this tweet, have a great day. I'm happy to see people share their love for something if they genuinely love it. That being said, people saying this game is top 5 of RE games is mind-blowing to me. Let me explain. Top 5 in terms of what? Are we talking gameplay, replay value, horror, action, survival, story, characters, setting? I'm very curious because on like 1 or 2 of those, I'll argue with you, but I can see your point of view. However, for all of those categories, I'll argue with you about how the game is way below top 5. I have a longer review about the game on my channel where I explain in more detail. Anyway, owner of this tweet, have a great day. I like Grace's character. I think I need to do an in-depth character study about her and Leon, and maybe all main RE characters, to be honest. I found her heavy breathing annoying, but just zoned it out. Maybe a mod can be made like how they made one to make the merchant quiet in RE4 Remake. I used to work with someone who has a stutter, and it's just a part of them. It's uncontrollable from what I can tell, and so for her to just stop whimpering wouldn't make much sense. But I get some people's frustrations. Anyway, owner of this tweet, have a great day. Some more lore. How about some more gameplay? Better level design, more iconic locations and not just the RPD. Ada being purposely chopped out of the Kendo flashback cutscene irked me. Claire not being mentioned by Leon or Sherry when he got to the orphanage made me pop a blood vessel. Just kidding, in case someone took that seriously. I know, I'm not funny. Anyway, owner of this tweet, have a great day. So, if you bought the deluxe edition or purchased it as a DLC, you can play the OG soundtrack in RE2 Remake. However, I'm not sure how many newer fans purchased the OG soundtrack. I thought that the theme callback was a beautiful and nostalgic moment on my first playthrough, given that I have played the OG and the remake, along with around 80% of the games in the franchise. The OG RE1 to 3 games were released on the current generation of consoles and PC way before Requiem came out, so I believe the newer RE fans and normies had time to play them. However, let's be real, a lot of people get turned off by tank controls, which is so heartbreaking because they are missing out. I guess Capcom was nostalgia baiting everyone who at least played RE2 Remake, but depending on how much you loved the game, the nostalgia may have been nostalgia-ing a little or a lot. Owner of this tweet, have a great day. I'm having a hard time trying to come up with a concept for a powerless Xeno boss fight. Best I can come up with is a quick draw standoff situation where Leon draws faster because he's cured and in the best shape of his life. Maybe you guys can come up with a better concept in the comments. Let's leave the Wesker boss fights to Jill and Chris and Sheva, maybe, okay? Anyway, owner of this tweet, have a great day. Before the game came out, we were getting trailers and information about the game from multiple sources. I was watching a streamer called browsefeatures talking about how he was worried the game might be too easy. Well, I think he was right to worry about that. The casual mode and standard, modern and classic are quite easy. Insanity is insane, but there should have been a mode like in between standard, classic and insanity. It could have been similar to hardcore in RE2 remake or madhouse in RE7. I like all the difficulties, but I really agree with this tweet. Anyway, owner of this tweet, have a wonderful day. In terms of replay value, I really agree with this tweet. I wouldn't turn the game off myself, but I can understand the owner of this tweet's actions. The orphanage should have been a flashback cutscene. Honestly, the whole game could have been a film. It's very cinematic, and Leon and Grace's actors are giving performances that would be amazing to see on the big screen or in a high-quality TV series. I go as far as to say this game could have been the movie ZachCregger of weapons fame is currently making for the franchise. Anyway, owner of this tweet, have a wonderful day. I could literally talk for an hour about the contents of this tweet, but I won't because I don't like the sound of my voice that much. I heavily agree with points 1 and 2. I find this game very disrespectful to the OG games' lore, and then you have Leon sections which were supposed to be on par with RE4 remake and evolved from RE6. In some ways they accomplished that in flashes with Leon's gameplay moments in the Chronic Care Center. However, post RHCCC, Leon's level designs are very generic and just subpar compared to RE4 and low-key RE6 at times. Heavily agree with points 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. Although with Victor Gideon, that man is on my hear me out cake, if you know you know. With him, I just wish he turned into a snake during his boss fight instead of Nemesis given his fashion motifs. I hope he comes back in DLC. However, unlikely that is of happening. I go into more detail in my longer review of Requiem on my channel if you're interested, darlings. Anyway, owner of this tweet, have a great day. I disagree that Capcom should never try blending survival and action horror again. They did that with RE4 OG and remake and it worked somewhat. I think that Requiem's base game should have belonged to either Leon or Grace entirely. Probably Grace. Then Leon's campaign could have been a separate ways deal, like where the gaps are filled in the story. It worked for RE4 remake in particular, and it could have worked here. I heavily agree on that last part of the tweet though. The game didn't reach its full potential, gameplay wise, level design wise, and story and lore wise. Anyway, owner of the tweet, have a good day. I think Leon controls the best in RE2 remake, and that's on a period. In RE4 remake, he moves like a tank. In RE6, he moves too much like he's on a swivel. I think RE2 remake found the right balance with movement. Requiem just pales in comparison to RE4 in most ways. I agree with the second part of the tweet, very much so. However, Leon could have been the only one in this game. He's essentially dying in this game, so he was very weak. If you put Leon in Grace's position and brought that mechanic from late game where Leon must stop at times due to Raccoon City Syndrome and give him Grace's arsenal and toolkit, I think Leon would be a perfect match for horror, Sir Nakanishi. I like Grace though. They could have had her as the only one in the main game and given Leon his own separate ways type of DLC. Anyway, owner of this tweet, have a great day. This tweet just echoes my sentiments that this game could have been a CGI movie or a live action film directed by ZachCregger maybe, or whoever directed the cutscenes for this game. And yes, Alyssa died for this, mid-story and at times mid-game. The way they marketed this game is so strange to me. They were honest when telling us not to expect too many legacy characters returning, but only Sherry and Leon. This is so CGI movie coded. All the CGI movies usually have only 2 to 3 legacy characters return and the rest are paid dust. If you really want to service the fans, you don't kill off a hardcore fan's favourite and you don't give them a loaf of sliced nostalgia bread. If you appreciate the game for what it is, that's fine, and I do, but I have to be honest and say how I feel entirely about the game. Anyway, owner of this tweet, have a great day. I hate the free detonator parts section. Boring, boring, boring. Yes, RE games have always had at least one boring section, but this section is so underwhelming. I like the collapsed block of flat section and the callback to the RE4 lift section and the OG RE3 gas station callback, but the rest just wasn't hitting. And on the first point, where is Jill, Claire, Ada, Chris, Barry, Rebecca, Carlos? How are you gonna reference Barry in the RPD and not have him in the game? In a cutscene at least, or a radio call where Leon asks, "Hey Barry, why'd you leave this puzzle here? This egg hunt for the STARS members? Be a pal and tell me where you hid the good stuff." Anyway, owner of this tweet, have a wonderful day. In RE7 Biohazard, Ethan's running pace was abysmal. In Village, it got a little better. What the hell happened to Grace's speed in 9? It's very noticeable in third person. Why did the running speed decline between Village and Requiem? Even in RE4 Remake at the start of the game, Leon's pace was amazing. Very quickly, however, he runs like he's not on a mission to save the first family's daughter. I never had an inventory item disappear though. Might be a bug. I found my heart racing and anxiety in my belly at times during Roadhill, but I was never scared like how Jack or Marguerite scared and creeped me out in Biohazard 7. Anyway, owner of this tweet, have a nice day. I saw a video claiming that some of the reviews of Requiem on a popular review site were written by AI. Need I say more? The game is not perfect. Far from it. There's no such thing as a perfect Resident Evil game, besides RE1 Remake, let alone game in general. There's always room for improvement. In terms of reviewers, there's a few reviewers who are more open about their negative thoughts towards RE's latest entry. Ruben from Nerd Space Games being one of the first who shares some of the sentiments I have towards the game, which he reviewed before it came out. Susie the Sphere Hunter also hinted at the sections that would be a slog to get through on repeat playthroughs, like Chloe's orphanage section. I should also mention Boulder Punch and Under the Mayo are open about their complete thoughts on the game. Others to mention are Latina Parfait, Synthetic Man, Type 2 Productions, etc, etc. I watch a range of people, ranging from those deemed unproblematic to very problematic, and other YouTubers have made accusatory videos on them. Anyway, owner of the tweets, enjoy your day. I've seen a number of people arguing that Requiem is mid. Depending on the day, I might agree with them. However, I really like the Roadhill Chronic Care Centre section. The intro at the Wrenwood Hotel is mid though. So much so that there's a category on speedrun.com called No Intro for Requiem. The second half of the game feels like M2 made it, which is a shame because I know what M2 are capable of. They're capable of more. I believe they worked on Separate Ways Remake and they did a fantastic job. I think the average fan will agree it's the best DLC in the franchise. Again, I want to be as respectful as possible towards people's opinions, but also towards Capcom because I understand game development takes years, it is stressful and costly. Anyway, owner of this tweet, have a good day. I mean, the motorcycle section is mid. It's a mid segment. I liked it the first time and I find it okay in repeat playthroughs, but it's on rails and you don't really have any control besides swaying left to right and shooting at my beloved Victor Gideon and his undead wolfish beasts. Heavy on Requiem not being the best Biohazard game. Not by a long shot. I can understand why it might be someone's favourite if they've only played a couple of the RE Engine games or if they feel emotionally attached to the game, but besides that, I can't fathom why one would say this is the best if you've played most of the games in the franchise. Perfection or best is defined as Resident Evil Remake in my book, and that's on everything. Anyway, owner of the tweet, have a good day. We should have gotten a whole game dedicated to exploring the ruins of Raccoon City. In fact, now that I think about it, Resident Evil Requiem could have been split into 2 parts and been a duology like the Winters saga. Part 1 could have been focused on Grace and Gideon, and Part 2 on Leon and Zeno, with both narratives coming together and woven together between the 2 games and concluding in the second. On the emotional impact part, I find the lack of legacy characters in Raccoon City so far. It made me not feel anything once I got to the RPD. I had time to mentally prepare and fan out because Leon was revealed to be in the game well ahead of time. I could see where the emotional moments would come in from a mile away. I only get emotional in games when I don't see something coming or anticipate it just before it actually happens. It was lovely to see Leon back in the RPD and RC truly, but I would have been sobbing if the OGs showed up, all the other OGs showed up. Also, shout out to Residents of Evil for their movie Resurrection. My eyes watered multiple times while watching that. The power of fandom that truly loves what they are a fan of always warms my heart. Anyway, owner of the tweet, have a great day. I understand what the tweeter is trying to say here, but I would have worded it differently. In fact, I would go as far as saying this game should have been a Jill x Chris game to commemorate the 30 years of this amazing and trend-setting franchise. One can only hope for a DLC with these two, particularly exploring the ruins of Raccoon City. Anyway, owner of this tweet, have an amazing day. Right, apologies for any audio issues or if you find my voice raspy or annoying. I appreciate any advice and feedback you guys leave me in the comments. I will be continuing this series by releasing another video reviewing other YouTubers and game journalists' reviews on Requiem. I'm trying to build a community of viewers who for whatever reason want to hear me attempt video game critique and journalism for their entertainment. This would be an awesome career or just a decent hobby, depending on how successful I ever become. Again, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to watch this video. Let me know what you thought of my reactions and the tweets I reacted to in the comments below. I'll try to respond to as many of you as I can. Please like, share and subscribe. God bless you. Have a wonderful day, evening or night.